Hello, I'm Simon Eddy. I'm the Chief Executive of Harman Finter Group, the corporate strategy consultancy, and this is a brief presentation on what is Lean. So what Lean isn't. It isn't Six Sigma, though many have tried to combine Six Sigma with Lean. Some say successfully, some others not so sure. It's not an excuse to reduce headcount. You can make headcount savings by using Lean, but the idea is not to just reduce your headcount. It's not time and motion. Time and motion was invented by Frederick Winslow Taylor, and Lean has some similarities, but it's not time and motion. It's not a method of de-skilling, quite the opposite, and it's certainly not a means of control. Lean is a method of empowerment. It's a way to empower your staff to make decisions and to look after their operating environment. It is a process for redeploying staff. If we make cost savings with Lean implementations, we can save on headcount, but what we do with that is to redeploy staff to other divisions. It is development of knowledge and skill, quite the opposite to de-skilling. It is a way of removing waste. So the history of Lean, in the 1930s, Toyota and Ono at Toyota in Japan developed a system called TPS, and this was born out of a desire to overcome the complexity difficulties that were found at the Ford Motor Car Company in the USA. So they found that they could improve process flow while still providing high variety to their customers. TPS has then sort of evolved back to the West and is now called Lean. So in the best traditions of Lean, we're using visual management during this presentation. So we're currently on green. We have plenty of time left. One of the primary focuses of Lean is to determine who is the customer. Now it sounds like an easy question to answer, but it isn't that straightforward. We need to go deep into this question and to find out more about who our customer is, what their drives are, what their desires are, what their demand is of us as a company and as a deliverer of products and services. In healthcare, the question has been asked often, and some people say the commissioners are the customer, some people say the government are the customers, but I would always say that the patient is the customer. One of the greatest things about Lean is visual management. What we do with visual management is we use a traffic light system, mainly color coding, so red, amber and green, to indicate stock levels, to indicate how well things are going, if there is a problem that needs attending to, if there's about to be a problem that needs attending to, or if everything is going swimmingly. Now we can ascribe certain levels to the red, amber and the green, and that gives us more control over what's occurring in the operating environment. So tact and pitch. Tact time is basically the available time divided by the demand. So one thing we find, for example, with GPs is that they have a tact time which is very short. It can be as short as 3 minutes. And you might think, well, how on earth does a GP see a patient every 3 minutes? But that is what the demand is. That's what the demand requires. The pitch is the amount of time that we actually do spend on processing a unit. So every 5 minutes, for example, a product comes off the production line. Or in the case of a GP, they might see a patient every 6 minutes. The trick is to balance the operations so that the pitch is the same as the tact time or less than the tact time, so that we can produce a product or a service exactly when the customer needs it. So we're now on amber. We're more than halfway through, so time is passing quickly. So flow in a manufacturing environment is created by pull all the way through the process. Essentially, each process should have a gap to fill so that we make something, we build something, part of the assembly, and then we put that in the gap at the end of the process. That item is taken from there to the next process, and once that gap appears again, then we refill that gap with our current process. The idea in Lean is not to work from the front door of the operating plant, but from the back door. So essentially, the first gap is not, for example, a customer phoning up to make an order. It's the lorry arriving at the back gates of the factory waiting to pick up boxed goods. In a hospital, that would be the discharge unit. So the discharge unit which discharges patients back to home. So a taxi or a friend or relative in a car picking up their relative would be the first gap in the process. If we follow this all the way through the process, all the way through the factory or the hospital or the other type of organizations, then we achieve flow. What we must do, though, is to problem solve any problems that occur during that process of pull and flow. Now, if we make our design of our product in the correct way, in a modular way, then we should have one-piece flow in production. The idea is that we have a lean cell, usually a U-shaped or horseshoe-shaped cell, and the product could be put together by one person, or it could be put together by 8 people. The idea is if one person is putting together the product, then we've achieved one-piece flow. It should be a target, not something that we have achieved on day one, but it's something which is a focus and which leads our design processes to design products which are ready to be used in production in a lean environment. So Jidoka is automation, essentially automation of a process. So basically, if we can do something with a machine, if we can build a product with a machine, or build a part of a product with a machine, or process a patient with a machine, as opposed to doing manual labor, then we should do that. And that should enable the operator to be essentially have knowledge and skill about the machine rather than about assembling the product. So Toyota found 3 areas for improvement. These are Mura, which is unevenness, Muri, which is being overburdened, and Muda, which is waste. They defined 7 types of Muda. The first is transportation, overproduction, movement, inventory, defects, processing, and work in progress or waiting. What we tend to do is to do waste walks, where we get our clipboards and we walk through the process from the back end of the process to the front of the process, and we look for the 7 types of waste. So 5S is a process for good housekeeping. Essentially, 5S's are sort, straighten, shine, standardize, and sustain the work that we've done. So what this does is enables us to keep a clean operating environment, keep everything in order, keep everything in the right place. It enables us to do the same thing again and again repeatedly without variation in the process. Some people now use 6S, which is a new system, but it's the same as 5S, but basically includes safety. I would always go for 5S, and I would always say safety is just a standalone thing. Health and safety is a primary concern of any organization. Whatever you do, safety first. Standard work or standardized work is a method statement which says this is how we do the work. So this is the process we use to build the work. First we do this, then we do that, then we do the next thing, and so on. And it's standardized by an iterative process of evolutions. A standard work layout, you can see there, shows the assembly processes, where the operators stand, and we could have a number of scenarios so that, for example, for a demand on any given day of 60 units, we might have 8 operators. For a demand of 40 units, we might have 5 operators, and by having those scenarios, we can be flexible about what we do and when to serve the customer's needs. What we're looking for is fast, flexible flow. So our and-on lights, that's the traffic lights, have turned red, so we're nearly out of time. So value stream mapping is a process by which we map all of the processes in the factory or in the hospital or in whatever organization. We map all of the processes that are relevant to the value stream that we're looking at, or trying to improve. We map the current state value stream, and then we say these are the areas we want to improve. Normally the current state map looks quite busy with lots of information flows on it, and then we say, and this is the future state map, and we create a future state map which looks a lot more simple, and then we action plan the areas for improvement to get from the current state map to the future state map. So it's all about improvement. In fact, it's about continuous improvement. It's not about revolution, it's about evolution in small steps. And the way we do that is using the plan, do, check, act cycle, which is originally known as the Deming cycle. Now, if you go to a hospital, you'll find that this is plan, do, study, check, I think, or plan, do, study, act. So it's slightly different, and most organizations have a slight variation on it, but essentially it's the same process. So we hold Kaizen events, which enable us to have a improvement session with all of the relevant staff at the location of whatever problem we're trying to improve. We do root cause analysis, which is a process where we use an Ishikawa diagram, or a fishbone diagram as it's sometimes called. It's also known as a cause and effects diagram. You can see one there in blue. And we also, with that, use 5 whys, which is where we say, why did this happen? And then we take the answer and we say, why did that happen? And we take the answer to that and we say, why did that happen? And by this process, we reach a deep cause. So the originating deep cause of the problem at hand. So that's a brief overview of some of the concepts, the main concepts of lean thinking. There are lots more Japanese words to learn and lots more to study. And you'll certainly need some experience if you want to do some work with lean thinking. And cross-sector experience is particularly useful. I've worked in manufacturing plants and in hospital, so that really enables me to have a full grasp of what the concepts are. Okay, thank you for your time. I've been Simon Eddy, and we've been Harman Funter. So if you want to contact me, just drop an email to the email address there on the screen, and I'll be happy to help you with any queries. Thank you.